And welcome everybody to episode 5 of Comic Confidential, the weekly podcast where we bring you the week's news, views, and reviews. I'm your host, Kay, and with me as always, is it Dr. Doom or is it Dr. Dickhead?
It's Dr. Dickhead this week.
Yeah?
Yeah, look, I owe you guys an apology, I guess. Last week, I may have given you a little bit of misinformation, perhaps.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Look, I jumped on the internet and I saw the word premiere for Preacher, and I got excited. So naturally, I thought, oh my God, the premiere of Preacher, it's this week. And of course, it's not. I was looking at the premiere for the South by Southwest festival, which is where, you know, basically a whole bunch of people get together all their goods, whether it's movies, TV shows, art, music, whatever, and they bring it and they showcase it. It was the premiere for that, for Preacher. It's actually 2 months away. It's the 22nd of May.
You are the shittest bloke ever, mate.
But I fact-checked myself.
Oh, did you?
And I humbly apologize to both you and every one of our listeners. It is May the 22nd, but look, it's going to be great anyway, isn't it?
It's just more time to get excited, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. And it's around the same time, very similar time to Civil War. So there's going to be so much happening at that time, we won't even know what to do with ourselves.
Oh, catch you later, free time.
Yeah, free time.
What's that?
Is that a thing? Look, I want to thank all the listeners and all the subscribers, every single one of you, each and every week. You make what Cade and I do a lot easier. Give it that little bit of point of validation, love, you know.
Oh, all the feels.
All the feels, all that sort of stuff. But don't forget, you can find us on Facebook at Comic Confidential Podcast, Instagram and Twitter at Comic Con Pod. The website is up, www.comicconpod.com. And, you know, we might even get a Snapchat one day.
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Who knows?
All right, let's get straight into the news, mate.
Yeah.
You seen the new Apocalypse trailer?
Yes, I have. Damn.
Yeah.
Damn. What can you say about this one? It's kind of like they've taken everything on board in the sense of, you know, the last couple of movies were high on character, light on action.
Yeah, and this just looks like it's all action.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be all action. We see a lot more Apocalypse, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse, including what appears to be, you know, a little bit of an origin sequence, which is really cool. We get to see more Psylocke. We get to see more Quicksilver. Which
you can never have enough of Quicksilver in this X-Men universe.
Enough of Quicksilver. And it's probably interesting to note that he probably spent more time on set than any other actor in the movie.
Really?
Based purely on the fact for one scene alone, and that's where the part where I think the library in the mansion blows up. You see it briefly in the trailer, but in that particular scene took Bryan Singer and the cast over 2 months to do.
Oh shit!
2 months. So that goes to show you the level of, I guess, intensity, commitment, love,
attention to detail,
all that sort of stuff. All that sort of stuff that's going into this movie.
Yeah.
So please stop bagging it out on the internet. You're making me cry inside. And look, like you said, it looks like there's a lot more action. Bryan Singer did say it was going to be very much like a disaster movie.
Yep.
Which I think is pretty cool. And what looks to be like a great final showdown in Egypt.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Mutant on mutant action. Who doesn't want a bit of mutant on mutant action? But you do. You see Beast versus Psylocke.
Yeah.
You see Storm versus Cyclops. Nightcrawler versus Angel. All of it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It looks good.
And I guess leading on to you know, all the movies that are coming out and the TV shows and all that sort of stuff, Marvel's head of television, Jeff Loeb, has revealed that Marvel TV are currently in the process of expanding to a total of 12 live-action shows.
Now, is this 12 new shows, or is this continuing what they have already?
Continuing what they have already. So you've got your Daredevils, you've got your Luke Cage, which will be coming, you've got Iron Fist, you've got Jessica Jones, which is out already, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., luckily for us, Agent Carter is still on the list. So, so we can definitely get into that.
Well, hopefully not, because Haley Atwell, who's the main star of that show, has been casted in another ABC TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Agents... what is it?
Agent Carter.
Agent Carter. Oh God, we should know that. We watch it all the time.
Right.
Is on ABC as well. So hopefully there's some scheduling conflicts and the show has to get cancelled.
Yeah, look, not hopefully for the people involved in the show. Like, we don't want to put a downer on all the people that have put in a lot of hard work to the show and the 3 fans that are out there that watch it. But it's, it hasn't grabbed our attention at all. But on top of that, they're also looking at a Defenders series, which is obviously what, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, all that sort of stuff is building up to. There's Marvel's Most Wanted, Damage Control, Empire of the Dead, and a couple of untitled shows as well.
Damage Control, that would be really quite cool because that's the crews who go around and clean up all the fuck-ups from the Avengers and shit like that.
Yeah. You would assume it to be like a bit of a comedy.
Yeah.
Obviously like a sitcom almost, some sort of superhero sitcom.
Yeah.
I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next, I guess, in the news would have to be Amber Heard. And I don't know if you know who Amber Heard is. She's been in some movies, but most importantly, she's Johnny Depp's woman. That's...
That's the news for that.
That's the news. All right, so we'll move on. No, look, so she's officially joined the cast. Like, she's been rumored for quite some time, but she's officially come out and joined the cast of Justice League and Aquaman as Mira, aka Aquaman's love interest / probable wife. We'll see at some point / Queen of Atlantis / all around badass underwater
mofo. Yeah,
female
cool.
mofo.
Deadpool. It has passed $700 million worldwide.
That is mental.
It's crazy for a comic book movie that had a $50 million budget.
Yeah, $58 million. It's crazy. I don't know math, but that's a lot more, isn't it?
Oh, it's a fair bit.
So that puts it currently number 75 all-time worldwide, which is massive for a movie that's only been out for a month. But massive in the sense of the movie in itself, where I guess nobody really knew what it was going to do. And within 32 days of being released, it's number 75 all-time worldwide, and it's only 40 million, according to Box Office Mojo, 40 million off becoming the highest-grossing R-rated movie domestically of all time, behind American Sniper and one of my personal favorite movies, Passion of the Christ. That really uplifting, story of love and triumph. It wasn't depressing at all.
Yeah, no.
But that's huge. That's huge for that movie, man, and it's huge for the superhero genre as a whole, because I see how how successful these things can be. Sequel coming out, doors are open.
Yeah, it might break the billion.
It will break the billion.
Yeah,
I'll put money on it.
Yeah, right.
Not a billion, but I'll put money on it. Daredevil is out, right? It's just dropped on Netflix. We're not going to talk about it this week. We're going to sort of break it down over a couple of weeks, as the season progresses, because we know not everybody can just binge watch 13 episodes in a row.
No, and if you do, you need to go out and do something more productive with your life.
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah.
What is your job? How do I get it?
Yes.
Because I want that sort of free time. But Daredevil's Charlie Cox, so he's the guy who actually plays Matt Murdock, has obviously, they've had quite a good reception to what's going to happen in season 2 and all that sort of stuff. So it's probable that this series is going to get picked up for a season 3. If it doesn't, it's mental. He's been talking about hopeful villains he'd like to see. He would love to see Bullseye.
Yep.
Which I think would be awesome.
Yeah, he has to be in it.
Not Colin Farrell. But definitely Bullseye would be awesome. But he also wants to see more Wilson Fisk.
Yeah,
doesn't want him to just disappear into the background and it's like, oh, that was the season 1 villain. I think he was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably one of the best TV villains we've had for a while.
Yeah.
And he also wants the Punisher to get his own show, which we will know soon enough whether that's warranted. But everything I've seen so far,
bring it on.
Yes, definitely.
Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill? Yes. Well, anyway, they're returning to voice Batman and the Joker in the animated The Killing Joke.
Now, this is awesome news because both Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy are the quintessential voices of those two characters.
Yeah.
If you watch the animated movies, Mark Hamill's Joker is easily the best, and Kevin Conroy's Batman is, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, easily the best. And these two are teaming up for the awesome adaptation of the graphic novel The Killing Joke, which probably begs the question, what rating is this thing going to get? Because there's quite a lot of graphic violence, and obviously, the big sort of... Do I mention it? Do you mention it?
No, don't spoil it, because, it's a really good storyline.
Yeah.
But like Troy said, this is a pretty graphic little series, so they need to kind of do that to really get this whole story over.
Yeah, basically, I guess what we're kind of saying is this could be like potentially, an R-rated animated comic book movie.
Yeah.
R-rated in the States. MA-rated here.
Because we're hardcore.
We are. But yeah, that's it.
Cool.
So that's cool. So that's the biggest news for the week. I'm sure there's more. We'll get to that next week. But now, it's time for the weekly wrap. All right. So like I said, that's going to bring us into the weekly wrap, which is where we wrap up the week's TV action. And we always kick it off with one of our personal favorites, The Walking Dead.
Yes. This week, Carol and Maggie get kidnapped. Carol might be losing her mind, and the crew meets Negan. Or do they?
Do they?
Yes.
Spoilers? Spoilers.
Full of spoilers. Look, this is another bottle episode, but if any TV show can pull off a bottle show, it's going to be The Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's a lot more character-driven, this show anyway. You expect this kind of thing every now and then. So where a couple of other shows can't necessarily, like I guess we had Legends of Tomorrow. We had another show, I can't even remember what it was, but it was another bottle episode. Basically, when you've got characters and writers and all that sort of stuff, the quality that are on The Walking Dead, you can pull this off. Absolutely. And this episode focuses on the kidnapping of Carol and Maggie, which happened kind of at the end of the last episode, by a red nut savior named Paula and, 3 of her mates.
Yeah, and that's it. And when you've got a group of 4 versing Carol and Maggie, it's never going to end well for the bad guys.
Exactly. It's never going to end well for the bad guys. But I guess the question that this brings up is, are they the bad guys?
Yeah, it's starting to blur the lines of who's good and who's bad.
It's really starting to blur the lines, because once upon a time when watching this show, you could probably quite easily say, Rick and the crew, like, they're the good guys, man. These are the guys on the show that you're rooting for and all that sort of stuff. And while you're still rooting for them, they do cross some boundaries that are very, very questionable.
Yeah, this is some really good writing. It's...
This episode especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we have here this week is something that's like just a really like expertly written character episode that kind of revolves around Carol and Maggie's changing attitudes towards killing, similar to what Glenn and Heath went through the week before. Heath, for those of you who don't know, is Whoopi Goldberg. I've corrected myself from the week previously.
You're killing it this week, mate.
I have learnt something. I've learnt so much this week. Heath is Whoopi Goldberg, but it's fair. It's very similar what Carol and Maggie are going through this week about their attitudes towards like actually having to kill human beings instead of walkers, to what Glenn and Heath went through last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And in last week's episode, you also saw that Carol's keeping a body count. Yeah, so I think it might have been 18.
It was 18. Yeah, she was up to 18. Up to a few more by the end of it, but what it shows is that she doesn't take it lightly.
No, it's like each kill is kind of taking its toll on her soul.
Yeah, and you think about the shit that this woman has been through.
Yeah,
like
that shitty abusive husband in season 1.
Yep, she's seen her daughter become a walker.
Yep,
she had to shoot that one kid that I can't remember its name.
Yeah, yep.
But you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, look at the flowers.
Yeah,
and
look
bam.
at the flowers, bam. She's done some stuff that would make anybody question their own sanity.
Yeah.
Obviously, that is starting to sort of happen, I think. Rick, on the other hand...
Yeah, Rick don't give a fuck.
Rick don't give a fuck. Rick's not going to change. Rick will shoot a dude straight in the face if he has to.
Yeah.
Punches
Yeah, punches a zombie head last week.
Yep.
But yeah, this episode, he just shoots that guy straight in the head, which kind of leads to the next point that the saviors, there's no Negan. Everyone is Negan.
Yeah. So what you find out throughout this whole episode is, it's like the whole thing is kind of like it's like a Spartacus sort of thing. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Spartacus or whatever. But it's like, I think it's like a Roman general. And it's like, who is Spartacus? And then like some man stands up. He's like, I am Spartacus. And then another man stands up. He's like, no, I am Spartacus. And then they all stand up and they're like, we are Spartacus or whatever. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
This is what he's driven these people to do for him, like to essentially, take his mantle and take the blame, and I guess hide him in the shadows for as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's quite clearly what's going on here. So when he actually reveals himself, it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massive because right now, based on the end of this episode, realistically, they think they've got him.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yep.
Based on the last dude that Rick shoots. But what really plays out in this whole thing to me, and there's a whole lot that happens. But keeping to the main points of the show, this is really starting to show cracks in Carol's sort of like tough facade that she's had for so long. There's a part where she's hyperventilating, and at first I was kind of like, oh, she's just playing on it.
Was she playing on it? See, I wasn't entirely sure this episode.
Yeah, because you just don't know.
Yeah,
and it was expertly played out and expertly directed and all that sort of stuff. But for me, it's like it started off, this is Carol. She's just trying to play that old, like
helpless woman.
Yeah, helpless woman, fragile house woman or whatever. But by the end of it, I'm kind of like, holy shit, I think she might actually be losing her shit here.
Yeah, and it's all about Maggie being pregnant.
Yeah,
this is kind of her way of finding something useful in this shitty world.
Yeah, you're right in the sense that she's not cracking because of herself so much. She's cracking because she's realizing that, there are important people around her that, should be doing something different, should be doing something better and can be and all that sort of stuff. But they live in this shitty world where they can't. But ultimately, the episode plays out like you'd expect. Maggie and Carol do escape and basically kill everybody.
Yeah.
Don't they? But it's what happens at the end, I guess. It's a real turnaround because during the whole thing, Carol's very unsure about, whether she's going to kill Paul or whether she is, whether she isn't. It leads to a part where she could have killed her pretty much straight away, but doesn't. Then it leads to a bit of a fight scene and, ultimately, Paula dies. But it's kind of like, so she has this attitude. Maggie has a whole, I don't give a shit. We need to stab people in the neck.
Yeah.
to
we
get out
have to
of
do
here.
what needs to get done.
Yeah. But by the end of it, they're both just done, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've both just had it. You can tell, like, Maggie says that she can't do it anymore.
Yep.
Carol says she's not okay. What this really does to me, though, the last couple of episodes have really focused on Carol. And for me, I think that really seals her fate in this show.
Yeah, you know what? I'm starting to lean towards your theory here, where she's going to get the bat to the head.
Yeah, you were thinking Maggie. That's still not that's still a possibility.
Yeah.
Because Carol's focus has also been Maggie's focus, so you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
But ultimately, for me, it really seals the deal for Carol.
Yeah,
I think she'll be the one to go.
Yeah, for sure. And there's only 3 fucking episodes left. So
3 episodes.
Oh, mate, this is we're getting to the pointy end now, and
as it were,
kind of fitting for The Walking Dead, isn't it? But yeah, it's something's going to happen in these last 3 episodes that's going to change the this show forever. I feel.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's going to change the whole landscape. So Paula gets bitten in the face by a zombie, which is great. How many face bites do you give this out of 5?
I'll give this 4 out of 5.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I would agree. I might give it 4 face bites and a bit of a nibble.
Oh.
So 4.5.
4.5, there you go.
All right.
Oh.
So that leads us into Supergirl. So this week on Supergirl, Kara gets exposed to red kryptonite and basically sees her turn to the dark side, which produces some pretty extremely powerful and emotional moments between all of the characters because she basically just goes around acting like a bitch.
Yeah. Easily the best episode of the series.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
So what it does is it shows that Kara gets exposed to synthetically created red kryptonite, which we'll get to later. But she gets exposed to red kryptonite. And for those of you who don't know what red kryptonite is, we touched on it last week. It basically, it causes Kryptonians to basically lose all of their inhibitions. Basically, everything they want to say or do comes to the forefront, and they do it.
Yeah.
It's basically bitch dust, isn't it?
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. And it leads to a very interesting interaction with this week's Freak of the Week.
Yeah, we see Kara take on, I think it's Kund?
Kahund?
Yeah, something like that. And anyway, she basically just tears shreds off him and says he's not even worth shit.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, you know, she says she's taken on white Martians, Kryptonians. This guy is nothing.
Not even worth looking at. Get out of my sight.
Yeah, it just lets him run free.
Yep, just lets him run free. And then that's when the mega bitch comes out.
Yeah, and holy shit, man.
Yeah. She tears strips off just about everybody that is around her, including Cat Grant, who she throws off a building, which is pretty cool. Then catches her, obviously, but whatever. She tears strips off the second assistant, what's her name? Saborn?
Yeah, gets her sacked or fired.
Gets her fired, but it's probably the interaction that she has with her sister that is probably the biggest one of the week. She's unbelievably cruel to her sister, and everything that she's ever wanted to say, I think, finally comes out.
And man, you can just all the feels come out.
All the feels.
Man, you almost get teary-eyed for the sister in this little scene, man, because she is just...
Nah, not me, man.
No, not you?
Nah.
Hard to steal.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's just such a prick.
Yeah, and that's going to play for some time, because by the end of it, you know, there are fractures that haven't healed because of these interactions that she's having with people. It affects her relationship with James Olsen.
Yeah.
It basically affects her relationships with everybody. And I guess at this point, nobody really knows what's happened. But then old Maxwell Lord, or as you like to call him, the poor man's Lex Luthor, rocks up, and he's kind of all like...
My bad.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. And it's just out of nowhere, no context.
Like nowhere.
Yeah, he just rocks up to the DEO and is like, sorry guys, that's my fault. I made red kryptonite.
Yeah, in an attempt to try to catch Nod, or kill Nod.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to do. He wanted to see what effect the synthetic kryptonite had on him. Didn't know it was going to affect Kara. But he's kind of, he just rocks up out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh, I can fix this.
Yeah,
you guys.
And then he makes this gun.
Yeah.
It just seems pure red kryptonite.
Yep, just like that.
It's that there was a little bit of a weak plot point for me.
Yeah, look, that definitely was. It was kind of very much, what's the word? Like a
quick fix?
A quick fix, to the whole situation. They could have played on it a little bit more, but they didn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, while this is all happening, Kara is like full on flaunting her badassery to the public, and really sort of letting them know that she means business and she's tired of their shit.
Yeah, she's trying to scare the public a bit.
Yep, she's like, I'm all about me now. I'm tired of having to deal with your crap. You don't know what it's like.
Yep.
And she even ends up, wearing a Kryptonian suit?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because when the DEO rock up, it looks like they have their kryptonite guns.
Yeah.
And it's just bouncing off her. It doesn't do shit to her. So, yeah.
So that's interesting. We'll see how that plays out. But the holy shit part of this whole thing was that finally, right? Finally, Hank Henshaw reveals himself as the Martian Manhunter, and in what is a very quick but awesome fight scene, really shows what he's capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a really good visual reference to show you some of these powers that Martian Manhunter has.
Yeah.
You know, the way he's phasing when he's fighting Superman is fucking amazing.
Yeah. You mean Supergirl?
Ah, yeah, Supergirl.
Yeah. It is. It's good. And look, that's next level badassery, and I hope we really get to see more of that. He does give himself up at the end,
and I don't know why he does this.
Well, he says why. He says, you know, he would spend 1,000 years in the cell that they put him in if it meant keeping Kara and her sister safe, which did draw, you know, the slight thing of a tear. Which may have rolled down my cheek. There was dust.
So that made you cry. But not when her sister's heart is broken.
Yeah, look, I just thought it was nice. Anyway, it was a really good episode. Easily the best episode of the season so far.
Yep.
How many hits from the red kryptonite pipe are you going to give it?
Okay, for this, I'm going to give it 4.5. It was really good. It loses half a point for the weak storyline regarding the red kryptonite.
So just because of that, you would have given this a 5 out of 5?
Yeah, man. It was really good for Supergirl.
Okay. I'll give you that. I'll give it 4 hits. 4 hits from the pipe.
Yep.
Yep. Flash, look, Flash is still away. Flash will be back next week. What we do know about Flash, though, is we've spoken about Kevin Smith's upcoming episode, which is going to be episode 21. We now know that it actually has a writer, and the writer is Zach Stentz. And this is pretty cool because he's got some pretty cool writing credits to his name.
Yeah, what like?
Thor, X-Men First Class, Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, just to name a few.
Oh, so
Yeah.
I guess he's pretty good.
He's done some stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
He's written some stuff, more than me. It's going to be awesome. Look out for that when it comes in a couple of weeks. And we're back next week with Trajectory. Arrow.
Yeah, that's also on break. It's been renewed for a 5th season, along with a lot of CW shows.
Yeah, so The Flash has been renewed for a 3rd, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, just means there's going to be hundreds more Lazarus pits showing up.
It will. Plenty more Lazarus Pit shenanigans to come, for sure. Gotham this week. So Gotham was pretty interesting this week.
Yeah, Bruce comes face to face with his parents' killer, and I'm doing air quotes there.
Air quotes, because it's like, or does he?
Or does he? Penguin gets the all clear from Doctor Strange, and Edward Nigma is getting Gordon's attention.
He is. So this week it's a really big focus on Bruce meeting Matches Malone, who is apparently, see what I did there?
I did.
The killer of his folks, which is a big plot point, obviously. And Bruce and Alfred head to the criminal underground to get some information in regards to where they can find matches.
Yeah, and Bruce just cannot shut his damn mouth.
Yeah, so to put into context, what happens, Alfred is trying to take the lead on everything because he doesn't think Bruce is able to handle this sort of stuff yet. And Bruce being the pig-headed, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, I still don't really know how old this kid is.
He's 10.
10-year-old boy
Probably.
that he is, he doesn't want to take that. And he keeps jumping in and, butting in when he's not wanted. And it causes some shit, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Alfred gets into some fisticuffs with Cupcakes.
Yeah, so Cupcakes is the leader of this group that they have called the Mutants. And basically they need to get the information from him as to where they can find matches. Cupcakes is like, sure, I'll give you that information, son. But you got to fight me, old man.
And he does. And Alfred is badass, man.
Alfred is badass.
I want a show on Alfred.
Well, they have kind of announced that, like I did read somewhere, that they don't know any more than the fact that it's titled Pennyworth, right?
Yep.
They don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be Alfred pre the Waynes? Is it going to be, Alfred's daughter or granddaughter? They don't know, but you could get what you're asking for, is what I'm saying.
That's going to be awesome. I'll watch that way more than Gotham.
Well, yeah. But this whole scene, and, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This is just my opinion. But this whole scene plays out like a real sort of homage to The Dark Knight Returns, in my opinion. So old man battles lead mutant who is much younger and much stronger, has a monologue, which in the comic it's an inner monologue, but has a monologue with Bruce Wayne as to how he's going to defeat this younger, sort of much, much stronger opponent in front of all, the mutants' peers and all that sort of stuff in an undisclosed location. Really, to me, that is the final fight scene of The Dark Knight in the garbage dump, which, I guarantee they've played off that.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah, cool. That's interesting. Got a question for you.
Yes.
How many times has Alfred been in hospital?
Every week.
Every week.
Every week since the show started, this guy has basically been in hospital. How he's not dead yet, I don't know. Plays to the badassery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, it eventually sort of culminates in Bruce coming face to face with Matches. Now, what we didn't mention earlier is that Bruce has got a gun.
He's got a gun.
He found himself a gun, and he's going to confront Matches by himself. And look, what you can really see from this is, is Matches the real killer? you never really find out.
No.
But he does seem very well ready to die, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the scene between Bruce and Matches was really quite good because it was extremely emotional.
Yeah.
You know, you can see Bruce, his eyes are just welled up. You know, he's like, this is the person who's killed my parents.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even remember them.
Yeah.
You know, they were just nothing to this guy.
Yeah.
And he can't handle it, you know. He goes there with the plan to kill him.
Yeah.
And just leaves because this person's nothing.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you like this kid yet?
Nah.
You're never going to give this kid a chance, are you?
No.
So anyway, basically he leaves and gunshot, bang, Matches takes care of himself, really.
Yeah.
What else we see, though, I don't think that's the end of that, by the way. I think this will come back somehow.
Yeah.
You know, it'll lead into bigger and better things. I also don't really believe that he's the killer of Bruce's parents either.
No.
Or maybe he is, but it's like who put him up to it kind of thing. What else we see, though, is we see Hugo Strange continues his very weird sort of torture therapy on the Penguin.
Yeah, he's now I don't know if you noticed this, but he's using a serum called Crane Formula. Yeah, I have no idea what that is, but
Really?
hopefully our listeners can put a little bit of info into my ear holes about it.
I can tell you.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Crane is the Scarecrow.
Oh, really? No wonder he's flipping out in that damn chair then.
Exactly.
That explains a bloody lot.
Doesn't it? There you go. You've learnt something today. Eventually, though, Hugo Strange is just like, you're done.
Yeah, catch you later, mate.
You
You're
can
all good.
leave. I don't know how he gets to just leave.
Yeah. You know,
I don't know what the criminal justice system is like in Gotham.
Yeah.
Obviously not the same as it is in Law and Order. But the criminal justice system here, it's kind of like if you've been declared sane, you can just walk.
Yeah.
After murdering people. But that's cool.
Yeah, I guess so. It'll be interesting to see what Strange has in plan for the Penguin, because surely this is not the end of their relationship.
No, definitely not. We'll see the Penguin become bigger and badder as the seasons progress.
Yep.
But you know, we also see Nigma take another step closer to becoming the Riddler.
Yeah. You know, there was one scene here where he's kind of just talking to himself in the precinct.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of it, quite loudly.
Yeah. It could be played off as like an inner monologue in
That
his
could
head,
be. Yeah.
that nobody can actually is witness to. Or it can be that, you know, Gotham police just don't give a shit about you,
Yeah.
Edward Nigma.
Well, that's kind of the case, I guess.
Yep. So it looks like he has his target set on Commissioner, not yet.
Not yet.
Detective Gordon.
Oh, spoiler.
Spoiler, everyone. He gets Commissioner. But yeah, with the little question mark, the green question mark that he draws over his head, which I thought was quite cool. And leads us to the end of this, which, in a very, very big move from this show, Bruce Wayne has decided to leave the manor, leave Alfred, and go and live on the streets with Selena Kyle and, you know, act like a bit of a bum. But it's more than that. This is really his first transformation into the beginning of Batman. You know, this is where he takes himself away from his life of privilege and all that sort of stuff and puts himself on the street to live like the criminals that he eventually wants to bring down, which he mentions in the letter that he leaves to Alfred.
Yep.
Which I think is so cool, because I think we're now going to see this character develop and all that sort of... You'll never see this kid as Batman, don't get me wrong, but we're really going to see him develop as a character and go through some shit to really sort of become the man that we know he becomes.
Will he, or will he probably just run back to Alfred and say, "Oh, look after me"?
Look, leave this kid alone, man.
I'm never going to
leave him alone. You want to give this some batarangs?
Yeah, I'll give this episode 3.5 batarangs.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'll give it 3.5.
Yeah,
I'll join you. 3.5 batarangs. DC's Legends of Tomorrow is also on break. So many shows away on break this week. We dead set almost had to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Almost, but we didn't. Legends will be back on March the 31st in the States, April the 1st here, and it's going to focus on Ray, Kendra, and Sarah being left in the 1950s for months. And Sarah makes an interesting decision to rejoin Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins.
That's going to be cool.
we'll see what happens. The same actor, and I can't remember his name, I do apologize. The same actor comes back to play Ra's al Ghul that played him in Arrow, which is cool. I like that dude.
Yeah.
I thought he was cool. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Cool.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big bang. Wherever there's a hang, you'll find a Spider-Man.
All right. Now, if you don't know what that was, you crazy.
You need to check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself, because that was obviously the Spider-Man animated series from the 60s, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was amazing. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to delve a little bit into Spider-Man's origins.
Where he started.
Yep, with the comics and how that translates to the big screen.
Yeah.
It's really, this is one of like comics' most beloved characters. So there are so many things that you could possibly talk about with this character. We're trying to narrow it down a little bit. We're trying to keep it a bit simple. We love this character. You guys probably love this character. So we hope we do it a little bit of justice and give you some things that maybe you didn't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And let's take it all the way back to the start from the bare bones.
The bare bones. So this is where Spider-Man made his very, very first appearance. And it was all the way back in 1962, well before you and I were born. And in Amazing Fantasy number 15, written by Stan Lee and illustrated by Steve Ditko. And it effectively tells you the story of a young Peter Parker who obviously gets bitten by a bit of a radioactive spider.
Yeah. In this comic, he gets his powers a lot quicker. He basically finds out he's getting these powers on the way home from school.
Exactly. So a little bit of a science experiment at school, gets bitten by the radioactive spider. On the walk home, discovers that he actually starts to have powers, and within like a panel, well, not a panel, but a couple of panels, it's kind of like, holy shit, I can do all this stuff that a spider can. And what he does do is that he decides to use these powers for, I guess, selfish reasons.
Yeah.
He decides to use them to kind of become famous. And he jumps into a wrestling ring for some money, and he gets discovered by a talent agent, and it's kind of like, come on our show and, do what you do and all this sort of stuff. In this time, he creates the costume, he goes on show, and of course, the infamous scene where there's a robber that is basically, trying to, and I think he's trying to basically steal, from the money from the show, the earnings from the show. And Spider-Man lets him go. And when the police officer asks him why he let him go, it's like, all you had to do was trip him up, kid. He's like, I'm tired of being pushed around and being told what to do. That's your job. You handle that. I'm in it for myself,
Which ultimately leads to Uncle Ben being murdered.
It does. On his way home, Peter Parker comes to his house. There's the car out the front, the police car out the front, and he gets in there and it's kind of like, oh, there's been a break and enter. Your Uncle Ben has been shot and murdered. But it's like, but don't worry, kid. We've got the guy. We've got him like bailed up in a warehouse, and we're going to get him soon.
Yeah, and this then sees Peter Parker basically leg it straight to these warehouses to realize this was the criminal that he let go earlier.
Yeah, and so this is really. It's a very emotional group of panels in the sense that it makes him realize that if he had have just done something differently, if he had have tried to make a change or stop the criminal, none of this would have happened, and his Uncle Ben, wouldn't be dead. And it finishes with a very forlorn Peter Parker sort of walking down the street in his Spider-Man costume. And it's the whole, with great power comes great responsibility panel, which a lot of people think is said to him by Uncle Ben at some point.
Yeah.
but it's actually not.
No, it's just a panel in the movie.
Yeah.
Not in the movie, in the comic.
In the comic, the very last panel. What's important to note, though, is that entire thing, so that entire story from you meeting Peter Parker to him becoming Spider-Man, getting his powers, Uncle Ben dying, and with great power comes great responsibility, all takes place in less than 15 pages.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is crazy when you think that the influence that this character has had on everything from TVs to movies to pop culture to merchandise to whatever you absolutely want. It's crazy. Started from 15 pages.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting because Spider-Man almost didn't happen. Yeah, Stan Lee's editor at the time didn't think the character would catch on.
Yeah, it's kind of basically like, oh, Stan Lee, you're crazy, man. Nobody likes spiders.
No one likes teenagers.
No one likes teenagers. No one likes poor people, as Peter Parker was as well. But he gave him the opportunity because I guess he trusted Stan Lee because he had already created some of comics' most well-known characters, and it turned out to be a massive success.
Yeah, you could undoubtedly say Spider-Man is the most successful series in comics ever.
Yeah, I think you could. I think you could safely say that. That led to Spider-Man getting his own comic book in The Amazing Spider-Man, which went on to span decades, multiple volumes, innumerable issues. The comics that we'll talk about at the end of the show mostly come from that. It's crazy to think what this little 15-page comic, Amazing Fantasy number 15, has created for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of things that that you might not know, I guess, about Peter Parker and about his life. So that he's essentially an orphan and he lives with his Uncle Ben and his Aunt May. How did that happen? Well, effectively, his parents worked for the government.
Yeah, they worked for Nick Fury.
Specifically. Not Nick Fury in S.H.I.E.L.D. They worked for Nick Fury within the CIA, and they actually died in a plane crash.
Yeah.
So, fairly uneventful, but they were spies.
Yeah.
As it were, I guess. Another hot tip, I guess. A lot of you think that Mary Jane was actually Peter Parker's first love.
You'd be wrong.
You'd be dead wrong. His first real love was, of course, Gwen Stacy. And she went on to be a major, major character for a long time. And through various reboots and things like that, she is played a part again and again and again, but obviously, at some point she dies.
Yeah, and it's quite a historic moment in the Spider-Man series because ultimately, I guess we're going to say spoiler alert here, that the Green Goblin throws her down a well, or is it down a clock tower?
Off a bridge.
Off a bridge?
Yeah.
Off something tall.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man's attempt to save her effectively breaks her neck.
Yeah, but, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is in the comics.
Save that for the comics.
Yeah. But look, another thing with Spider-Man that makes him so cool is he probably has some of the best bunch of villains that you're ever going to come across.
Oh, easily.
Easily the best bunch of villains within Marvel.
Yeah.
Probably close to, out of both the major titles, Marvel and DC, maybe second only to Batman.
Yeah,
as far as...
You'd have to put him right up there at least.
Look, he'd be number 2 if he wasn't number 1. Batman's got some cool-ass villains, but Spider-Man has some awesome ones too. Obviously, the Green Goblin. You've got Dr. Octopus.
You've got Venom. You've got Carnage. Sandman.
You've Rhino. You could go on and on. It's just an amazing list of really well-written and constructed characters that, when you look at things like the Rhino and the Lizard, you kind of look at them and you go, all right, it's just a giant lizard, or it's just a giant rhino guy. But they're actually really well-developed characters.
And that's it, and not only does he have these super villains, he has some street level villains in the sense that he also goes up against the Kingpin quite a lot.
Yeah, he does. He that's sort of brings a lot of team ups that he sort of gets involved in as well. So he teams up with Daredevil, which I guess is where you see that a lot of that Kingpin crossover.
Yeah.
Remembering, of course, that he's effectively in the same city as Daredevil. He's been on 2 Avengers teams. I believe.
Yep.
He's been an honorary member of the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, he was
before.
actually in the Fantastic Four for quite a while.
He was. We've spoken about some brilliant, amazing characters before, but this is legitimately one of the best. You know a lot about him already. You know what his powers are. You don't really need to talk about them too much.
No.
But just know that he is one of the coolest characters out there.
Easy.
And if you haven't, for some reason, I don't even know why you wouldn't have, but if you haven't for some reason gone out and gotten yourself involved in Spider-Man's world, whether it's through the comic books or through the animated series or through the movies, then you crazy, son.
Yeah, and that's it. And, that kind of brings me to my next point is how does his origin story differ in the movies?
So if you look at the first movie, which I think came out in around 2002.
Yeah, it was pretty much the first superhero movie that came out.
Yeah.
So it really set the standard.
Yeah, as Spider-Man has done his entire career.
Yeah,
set
it
the
seems
standard.
fitting.
Yeah, it does. It definitely seems fitting. And this sees Tobey Maguire take on the mantle of Spider-Man. It focuses on his relationship with Mary Jane Watson rather than his relationship with Gwen Stacy. But it also does feature quite heavily Norman and Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn obviously being Norman's son and Peter Parker's best friend, and Norman Osborn being, of course, the Green Goblin. So when you're looking at the differences between how they play on this, one of the biggest things I guess to look at is when you're looking at how he's actually bitten, how he becomes Spider-Man and gets his powers. They never really talk again about a radioactive spider.
No.
It's always like a genetically modified spider.
Yep.
So this one in particular, there's multiple spiders that they've sort of done a crossbreeding species
spliced
thing. Spliced them into one. So they all have the best attributes of each other. And this spider is the one that happens to escape and bites Peter on his hand.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. He's on a school excursion, walking around, taking photos, not paying attention, gets bitten.
Yep.
And then we see him almost getting a fever-like symptom.
Yeah.
And waking up the next morning, jacked as hell. And
on some good shit.
Yeah, on some very good shit. And he's got, he's turned into effectively Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The major difference this movie does is that his web is organic.
Yes.
Is that it comes out of his wrist rather than out of a shooter. Yeah,
like a mechanical web shooter, which even going all the way back to the original in Amazing Fantasy, he actually creates. Because, he's a bit of a science genius, a bit of a genius.
Yeah.
Said to have an intellect of well into 250, which is a lot in it. A lot more than me. But yeah, so he's created the mechanical web shooters. In this one, they're organic. Bam, they just come straight out of his wrists.
Yeah, that's it. And then we move into the
Andrew Garfield?
I was thinking Simon and Garfield.
Simon and Garfunkel?
Yes, that's it.
We move into the Simon and Garfunkel.
I've made a terrible mistake.
The Amazing Spider-Man. And the reason we're jumping so quickly and we're not touching on Spider-Man 2 and 3 from the original is we're just really sort of delving into the origins in this one.
Yeah.
I have no doubt that one day we will come back and we'll talk more about Spider-Man, but this is just effectively his origins and what they do.
And how they've been portrayed.
Yeah, and this to me in The Amazing Spider-Man, nothing against Tobey Maguire, like I do like those movies, and not all of them. I didn't think 3 was like much chop, but the original was good.
Yeah.
This one to me was quite a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. It showed a little bit more of a darker side to Spider-Man. A little bit more real world, not so comic book brought to life.
Yeah. I guess the thing that neither of these movies have really played on is the really sort of like borderline annoying way that Spider-Man taunts the people that he's fighting against with just non-stop one-liners and quips and, just kind of almost to drive them crazy in a sense to, I guess, maybe, even distract them or whatever. But that's just who he is. That's just the personality.
He's got that little smart-ass attitude going on. He's almost like a little Deadpool, but PG rated.
Yeah. And, those two have had quite a few team-ups as well.
Yeah.
But it's really something that they've never really played on. Apparently, Tom Holland is going to go back to that quite a bit more, and we'll see how that happens in his rebooted Spider-Man. But going back to Andrew Garfield, it was really well done. And look, obviously the movie came out a lot later, and so the effects and the fight scenes and everything are going to be quite a bit better. You do go back and rewatch, even though it's only 2002, you go back and rewatch the original Spider-Man, and it plays off like it doesn't play off that well on the small screen. Some of the effects, yeah. I watched it fairly recently just to see, because I hadn't seen it for a while, and it doesn't play off as well. The Amazing Spider-Man does, however, and with this one again, genetically modified spider. This is all about human animal crossbreeding. Yes. Which we on the show don't recommend. But,
it's highly illegal.
Highly illegal. But if you do want to get into it, that's great. Plenty of places you can search on the internet for it.
Don't tell us about it.
Don't tell us about it. But what it does, so it shows Spider-Man gaining his powers through visiting Kurt Connors at Oscorp. And it also shows Kurt Connors and his crossbreeding of man versus lizard and becoming the lizard.
The lizard, yeah.
It also focuses heavily on his love interest being Gwen Stacy.
Yep.
And it also focuses on Gwen Stacy's dad a little bit, who does die, spoiler alert, at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man. But he also dies in the comics. And in the comics, it's a much, much bigger thing, because he had a much closer relationship with her dad than they showed in this movie. But ultimately, it's still, it very much plays out in a similar sort of way, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's focusing a lot on the relationships, and there is no Mary Jane. If we had have seen a third movie,
potentially you could have seen a Mary Jane.
You could have, because obviously Gwen Stacy dies.
Yep.
In the second movie. Similar, but different.
Yeah, it's just a different scenario.
Different scenario,
same
different
result.
villain, same result.
Yeah.
She does die in the end of that movie. So potentially we could have seen a Mary Jane Watson later, but maybe not. Costume-wise, what do you think between the two? Three, actually, because we'll talk Tom Holland in Civil War.
My opinion is the second reboot was the best suit.
Yep.
And that's who you would have seen on our Facebook page, on our cover art, is the second...
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. It's a great suit. I like how it shows his shoes have some sticky bits on it. Sticky bits.
Got some sticky bits on his shoes.
Yeah, because, if you think about it, Spider-Man's shoes, how does his little sticky prongs come through them?
Yeah.
I feel a lot of thought has gone into this suit.
Yeah. The gloves you can understand.
The gloves you can. They actually show that in the first Spider-Man movie,
do.
how, his little spikes come through there.
Yep.
But no, I reckon second suit's easily the best one we've seen on screen so far.
Yep.
That's not to say the one from Civil War is going to be badass.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think the Civil War one potentially has the potential to be the best.
Yep.
We haven't seen a finished product, so we don't know.
Yeah, that's why I am not passing too much judgment on it.
Yeah.
Just because all we see a very retro 60s inspired Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it harkens back to the early days.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Look, if you want to break it down between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Knowing Peter Parker, how you know Peter Parker, who pulled off Peter Parker better?
Tobey Maguire pulled off Peter Parker better.
Yep.
Andrew Garfield pulled off Spider-Man better.
Okay. I'll agree. Andrew Garfield, to me, nobody thinks that guy's a nerd.
No way.
You know what I mean?
He's too man pretty to be the nerd.
He's way too good looking.
Yeah.
And, the hair is perfect, everything, to be considered, like the nerd Peter Parker that was such a social outcast.
Yeah.
Like, you've got no idea. The guy had next to no friends. He basically had his Aunt May and his Uncle Ben, and some teachers liked him.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anybody else who really gave him much love until he kind of became Spider-Man, and with that came a little bit more confidence and all that sort of stuff, and some muscles. Got a bit more jacked.
You get a little bit more jacked.
Yeah, get to the gym, kids.
Yeah.
If that's apparently that works. But yeah, So I think Tobey Maguire definitely played off that better. Andrew Garfield, yeah, you're right, probably the better Spider-Man. I'm really interested to see Tom Holland and how he portrays him, because he's going to actually be closer to the right age
Yeah.
than these other guys have been. So
That's it. And a lot of people forget Spider-Man's what?
a high school kid.
Yeah, he's 16 or something in the comics.
Yep. He's a high school kid that eventually, goes to college and stuff like that, but that doesn't put him as that old.
No.
Right? So, effectively when he starts, he's still in high school, and for you and me, that's like 17.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland, 19. So
There you go.
Yeah. So quite a bit closer. So it could be a little bit more of an authentic take on what a 17-year-old might be dealing with at the time.
Yeah.
Even though he's a 17-year-old superstar or whatever, doesn't matter. We'll see how the whole nerdy nobody loves me thing plays out, but I still have a super cool sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes.
What about him getting an iron spider suit?
An iron spider suit.
Yeah.
Do you think that'll happen?
You never know. There's a lot of talk of some Stark tech happening to his suit.
Yep.
That may already be evident in the suit that we've seen in the trailer. As you can tell with the eyes.
Yep.
If you listen very carefully, you can hear they're mechanical.
Yeah.
So, is that his Stark tech?
Yeah. Is it the web shooters?
Yeah, it's the web shooters.
But this guy, you can't forget that this guy is a genius in himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably on a higher level than Tony Stark even.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
Well, in some rebooted comics, you see Peter Parker is basically the new Tony Stark.
He is.
Yeah.
He creates his own spider tech and stuff like that. He spends a lot of his spare time, like whatever spare time he has, creating his own spider tech. So, who knows? Who knows, man? I'm excited. We're only a couple of months away from seeing what he looks like in Civil War, but we're still a good year away before we see, how it portrays on the big screen.
Yeah.
One thing I do recommend, though, don't just leave it to the movies to tell you how cool this character is. Go out there and read some comics. If you're struggling to find where to start, we've got a few places where we can kick you off, which we will in our final segment. But you've really got to delve into some of these cool stories, man.
Yeah, and that's it. And, the beauty of this stuff at the moment is you have a handful of storylines that you can choose. He's been rebooted multiple times now.
Multiple times.
So, Secret Wars has just rebooted the Marvel Universe again. So, for all you newcomers to the comics, this could be a great way to get into him.
Jump in now. Yeah, for sure. But the way a lot of these comics are done, they're done with like story arcs, which might only cover like one or like two issues. So as an example, I think it's The Day of the Juggernaut or something like that, where in the comics where he battles the Juggernaut, that lasts for 2 comics.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like there are references to like other things that may have happened previously, but ultimately it's done and dusted in those 2 comics. And it's brilliant, but it's done. Like you can just jump in and read that, and as long as you know who Spider-Man is, bam, you're done. And that's the brilliant things with these story arcs, is that they start and finish within themselves, which is really cool. We could honestly talk about this character forever.
All day.
But we sadly have probably run out of time. We will definitely touch on it again at some point. You can guarantee Spider-Man is not done on this show. He'll be back probably multiple times.
Yeah.
But for now, that's going to lead us to our final segment.
And that brings us to our final segment, Get to Know Your Favorite Superhero. This week, we are pleased to announce that this segment will be brought to you by Kersplatt Comics and Collectibles.
That's right. So make sure you check out their Facebook page. It's Kersplatt Comics and Collectibles. Make sure you get the spelling right. It's Kersplatt. You will not regret it.
Mel and the team have a passion for all things comics that I've rarely seen, and because of this, we have teamed up to give you some advice on the best comics to read weekly.
So this week, Kersplatt Comics and Comic Confidential bring you 3 of the most must-read story arcs for the friendliest neighborhood web slinger there is, Spider-Man.
Number 3.
Number 3 is Kraven's Last Hunt, covering Amazing Spider-Man number 293 and 294, Spectacular Spider-Man number 131 and 132, and Web of Spider-Man number 31 and 32. This, kids, is the crossover event that effectively kicked off crossover events in comics. The same writer and the same art team take on 3 different Spider-Man titles at the same time to bring you a 6-part story that sees Spider-Man battle Kraven in one of the most incredible Spider-Man stories ever written. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go out, get your hands on it, and see how it all plays out. It is brilliant.
Number 2.
In number 2, we're going to talk about the death of Gwen Stacy in Amazing Spider-Man number 121 and 122. This classic story arc covers the death of Spider-Man's first love, Gwen Stacy, at the hands of the Green Goblin, and serves as an amazing tale of love, loss, and the emptiness of seeing your greatest enemy finally vanquished. Read it yesterday. Honestly, it's amazing.
Number 1.
Number 1 is going to be the Master Planner Saga, covering Amazing Spider-Man number 30 to 33. Look, the final chapter of this story is absolutely wonderful, and it's easy to forget that this story arc also gives us our first looks at both Gwen Stacy and Harry Osborn. Now, in an attempt to save his Aunt May's life, Spider-Man is put in an inescapable situation, which could potentially lead to both his and his aunt's demise. How it plays out is testament to how brilliantly this is written and illustrated, and proves that love really can overpower all.
And sadly, kids, that brings us to the end of another episode.
It does. Episode 5, done and dusted. Would like to thank, as always, everybody who listens and subscribes. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook at Comic Confidential Podcast. We're on Instagram and Twitter at Comic Con Pod.
We might get ourselves a Snapchat soon.
We might get ourselves a Snapchat if we have time and interesting things to put on it. Don't forget, the website is always there, www.comicconpod.com. Make sure you subscribe and leave us some feedback.
Yeah, it'll be great.
And that's it. As always, I'm Troy.
I'm Kade.
And this has been Comic Confidential.
Catch ya.
Peace.